Hey, folks. Oops, gotta get rid of the Sprint banner there. How you doing? It's Lunch with Mal. I'm here. Miss Fix It. Ta-da, in the flesh. Hope everybody is having an absolutely fabulous week. We are as well. Um, what was I gonna say? I had words, but the words are gone. Oh, it was. Oh no, I lost my. I need my brush. I'll be right back. You know me, Mal. I can't get through an entire lunch with Mal without randomly brushing my hair. What else? What would you expect me to do? Hey, Jillybug, how are you doing? I hope everybody's having a great week. The weather has been nice up here in Atlantic Kanakistan. We had a day that, like, according to my weather app, hit 80 degrees yesterday. According to Jill's weather app, it was only 74. But I think I might have been looking at the real feel and not the actual weather. But it was sunny and it was warm and it was gorgeous. And today is still pretty decent. It's in the 60s, um, in the mid-teens for the Celsius folk, and super freaking awesome. I'm really happy. Um, and it's going to be really nice next week. And I'm going to a writers' conference in Fredericton, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away. It's the capital of the province on Friday or Saturday. And Mark Lafray is going to be there, and we're probably going to have dinner either Saturday or Sunday, and it's going to be great. So I'm just happy. I'm trying to have my microphone closer to my mouth because I've listened to some replays of various things I've done, and my audio kind of fades in and out, and I want to keep that from happening. So I'm like kissing the microphone, and it feels weird. I don't like having it this close, which is why I usually have it further away. But I'm like, oh, I gotta be better. I make sure I have good audio. I talk really fast and sometimes appear to skip words and stuff like that. So, I gotta keep the audio good. But so we got some folks here. People are showing up. How is everyone's book sales going this May? I'm quite curious to see what people are having going on. I've spotted a spike since around the 20th or so on a lot of counts of increased page reads. So I'm curious if how universal that is. Curious what people are seeing there. Thank you, Idula. I'm not wearing a costume right now, but hey, and hey, Davina. Glad you guys are cooling off. I heard that the UK was having a heat wave. I'm sorry. So many people friends in the UK that talk about there being a heat wave, and I'm just like I don't know. That seems like a really nice day to me. Like I'll keep the heat on in my office until it hits 24, 25 degrees Celsius or around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Like that's what I set the temperature to in this room all the time. Oh, awesome, James. I'm stoked. Was that the one you just finished? I forget how far ahead your writing is from your publications. So is it the one you just finished or the one before? I'm glad your sales are doing nicely though. Releases definitely help, that's for sure. I'm I'm really stoked. My white whale of a book is two denouement chapters away from being done. Maybe three, but they're short. And I expect that I'll be done writing words, like new words, Monday of next week, and it'll be on to my final pass for the edits. A year ahead? Holy crap, James. That's incredible. Now that you say that, I feel like you've told me that before, and I think that it was just like too hard to believe, so I just dismissed the knowledge, refused to internalize it. Yeah, all lives. Yeah, I do actually do our writing sprints every Thursday afternoon, but this week I'm making it a public one, so other folks can join in if they want. I don't always make them public. They're mostly just for people in our school program, but every now and then I like to open them up to have all the folks. I suppose it does, James. I suppose it does. Oh, that's great. That's awesome, Veronica. I'll have to see it. Oh, wait, I can do the new thing. I can show the comments on the page. There we go. Now those should start to show up on screen as well. Yeah, I'm doing a thing. Folks who are in our author roundtable we do on Tuesday. saw this, but I'm doing a new thing. I fired up 15 ads at $10 a day for a week. So I'm putting in about 1,050, 1,500, well, $1,050 into this, um, and trying to see like who's going to come out on top. And it's pretty wild because this is the ads are for a book that I released in November of 2016. And so, I've advertised this book 6 ways from Sunday, but I came up with some new ideas about how to advertise it and some new audiences. So, which is pretty wild. It's like I've run hundreds of ads for this book at this point. Um, and I've already got one ad that is already performing at like profitable levels in it's only they've been running for 2.5 days. I fired them up. I guess 3 days at this point. I fired them up Monday, which I shouldn't have done because it was Labor Day, but I had some free time, so I did it. And yeah, so big excite. Although I guess I only have 2.5 days worth of data because I don't have attribution data for today. But yeah, it's very exciting to see results coming in already, um, which is actually kind of a thing that can happen when you run a lot of ads at once. You can hit a critical mass and get results very quickly. I'm doing the same thing for another author right now, where I fired up a new swath of ads for her, 3 ads, each one at $20 a day. So I was able to get results like on day one by doing that kind of spend as well while kicking off the ads. Um, it's kind of like you can get results faster, and know if things are working or not faster. But the flip side, if you don't keep a really close eye on it, and like even one or an ad goes astray for like 2 days, that's $40 versus $20 if you're spending $10 a day. So kind of a crazy new thing, not a crazy new thing, but a bit of a crazy thing to do, depending on like how close you want to watch ads and how comfortable you are with that kind of spend. But it can yield pretty good results. I'm actually doing another test for an author too. I fired up an ad, $50 a day on day one, because I want to. We're having trouble scaling for that author. So I'm like, well, what if we just start high? Can we get an ad that cooks really well at high spend? So that's kind of like my thing right now. I'm like we're sort of in like an interesting surge right now in reads. Um, and I'm like, let's roll with it. Let's see if we can capitalize on that before like the late June, early July vacation time tends to dip reads. So Davina says, thinking about when to create an author profile on Amazon. Usually, once you first would create a KDP account, so kdp.amazon.com, and then once you have that, you can create an author. So you can go to authorcentral.amazon and create an account there as well, and that's where you can sort of set up your profile page and everything. I suppose you don't have to. You could probably create Author Central without KDP. Just usually everybody does it that way around. But yeah, you can create Author Central whenever you want. But most people don't do it until you have at least a pre-order up, because then you actually have a book to have on the page. How many ads did I release at once? I did 15. Hey Elaine, it's been a while. How's it going? How's life treating you? I'm glad that you're actually writing. That's great. And I'm actually writing too, which is pretty nice. I've also been house shopping a lot this morning. I think I'm driving Jill absolutely nuts. Um, so I closed the browser window that had my 40 tabs of houses open on it. Um, I was even looking at houses in other countries and kind of just seeing what's there and whatnot. And it's kind of funny, like there's a lot that would appeal to buying a house, say in Europe, but man, the more I look at some of the houses in New Brunswick where you can get like 5 acres on a lake, in a 1,500 square foot house for like $400,000, more I'm like, I think this might be the place to be. There's some beautiful houses here, and we got the place that we're renting right now. We're totally spoiled because we have a view of the fjord out our kitchen window, and I'm just like, that's it. My morning coffee has to have a view of water. That's just all there is to it. I've been ruined. Um, also feel like 15 years of living on a busy street in like suburban housing has given me a very strong desire to have a little bit more room. Awesome that things are going great, Elaine. I'm glad to hear it. You're still living in the UK, right? I had this weird thought that you'd moved to the US, but I think I'm just being confused about different people doing different things. So yeah, I'm going to be actually for the giant swath of ads that I fired up. I'm going to be actually recording a video series. I've already done the first video following these ads that I fired up, and just sort of show how they're going, what I'm learning from them, and stuff like that. But I'm also going to be doing a webinar um, at the end of June where I take an author, and I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to pick the author yet. Yeah, you, Elaine. I just for some reason you moved, but I think I'm just smoking crack. Uh, the good stuff, not the bad stuff. But I'm gonna be doing a webinar where I actually take an author and sight unseen or close to sight unseen. Like I'll first validate that they've got enough books and whatnot, but I won't really dig in. I'm going to actually create a set of ads for them as if they were a client of ours that we were running ads for. But those ones I'm not actually going to spin up. Um, I don't think, um, unless some author who wants us to run ads, but lets me also turn it into a webinar, I guess. Okay, yeah, I'm just drugs must have been involved, Elaine, because for some reason I thought she'd moved. Are those eyeballs, Janet? A pick me sort of situation. But yeah, so I'm going to be doing that at the end of June. I might not fire the ads up at the end of June. It'll still depend on how things are going at that point. Who knows, Janet? That might work. But I think it would make sense to fire them for someone who could run them, or because I think a possible scenario would be like to actually then create follow-on content for how the ads worked and what we do to fix them, and fix some ones aren't working, scale, improve, all that jazz. It would need to be something done in concert with someone for that, because it would be like $1,000+ a month outlay, obviously, to run that many ads. I don't know. I'm still noodling over exactly how to execute it, but I'm going to be doing it because I want to take you guys through that process, because I feel like it's a lot of times when I'm teaching like one ad, maybe 2 or 3 ads. How do you start them? How do you set them up? But I'm like, hey, when you want to do things at scale, it can be a little bit different, and it might provide really useful insights to people too. I think could be really interesting. But the week before that webinar, which I think we've got a date for it. I think it's Sunday the 23rd, Sunday the 22nd of June. We'll be doing the 4 pillars of ad analysis webinar that I talked about as well. So we've got some dates nailed down for these things, and Jill's going to start marketing them and sending out emails about them and putting them in the groups and stuff like that. So yeah, so cool stuff happening there. So it's going to be like follow Mal with her crazy whack of ads. And then ad analysis webinar, and then how do I start with a new author that I'm running ads for webinar. So some pretty cool stuff is happening as the summer opens up. I'll give you guys a little bit of a preview just to show you what these ads look like that I started for myself. And I am seeing a spike in reads too. This particular series was only doing about $20 a day, and yesterday I think it did $76. But it's too early to really get anything out of that, so I'm not drawing any conclusions yet. All right. Hey, Moni. I think it's a great t-shirt too. I'll bring it broad. I should probably be a little bit careful. I've a scant 5 years after growing breasts, I have already fully embraced the no bra movement unless I absolutely have to. Didn't take long at all. I'm like, I'm in my mid-40s. I'm not supposed to give a fuck anymore already, so let's roll. Okay, let me scooch this down here. And go places you did not expect this conversation to go. All right, I'm also going to turn off the chat on screen since that's kind of covering stuff up here. So these are all the ads that I fired up. So there are, I think there's 15 of them. There's either 14 or 15. And I broke them into 3 different creative sets. One that's showing starships going pew pew. One that's showing characters. and my main character is a woman, so it's got a female character in the ad, and another one that's sort of a no AI were involved in making these books ad. So I try to go something like this, but it's a little bit tongue in cheek. It's like no sentient AI were involved. Sorry, no non-sentient AI were involved in making these books. Can't say anything about sentient AI though, because my books are filled with sentient AIs. My readers oftentimes joke that I am actually a sentient AI that traveled back in time. So it's kind of playing on that. Not that I'm like saying anything anti AI. I'm just like, hey, I have books, over 100 books that had no AI involved in them. Some people really don't like AI. Can I capitalize on this? So it's kind of a test, not just for me, but for other people. I do worry that I'm I'm too tongue in cheek about it with my joke, and it's not on the nose enough for people to get. Um, so we'll see how things pan out. And then I did actually a different breakdown on authors I normally do. You'll see here I've got ones called Golden Age authors and other ones called modern authors. So there's Golden Age sci-fi authors like Asimov and Heinlein and Ray Bradbury and Frank Herbert and stuff like that. And there's modern ones like Kevin J. Anderson, S.A. Corey, James S.A. Corey. Um, Margaret Atwood's kind of weird. She kind of straddles the line in a way due to recent events and her TV series, stuff like that. So I broke out these different author sets because I want to see how they perform differently, and then I also have mostly male targeting men, but I have a couple that are targeting women as well because I want to see how well they worked. And it, to be honest, like I could have done a much larger set of ads than this. I actually worked out that I could have easily hit. I could have easily hit 40 ad sets I could have fired up because I only tested one creative type with women. Um, and there's a couple of different audiences I could have also tested that I didn't. I didn't do pure interest audiences like people who are into space exploration and stuff like that. Like I didn't try that audience, but I did do like a magazine audience. But I also didn't do my omnibus edition. I could have run ads for my omnibus edition as well. So I could have easily gotten my way up over 40 ads. And then I also didn't do big age variations. I could have tested like a 35 to 55 and a 45 to 65 plus. Um, age range. So with that in the mix, I could have probably gotten pretty close to 100 ad sets testing this out. But that gets to be just like information overload. You can't really look at all that stuff and make enough assessments off of that. And also with 15 ad sets, you can be reasonably certain that anybody seeing one of the ad sets isn't seeing too many of the others. But if you get to 100 ad sets, someone seeing one of the ad sets probably saw ads from the other ones. And then you lose you lose a bit of certainty as to what ad creative drove them to actually make their purchase if they clicked and made a purchase. So uh, you do have to sort of exercise some measure of restraint. And then and this is attribution thus far for these ads. So really it's the 26th through the 28th 26th through 28th. So just these 3 days really that we have data for at this point. And we did register reads on day one, which is pretty cool. You don't usually register reads on day one that the ad started, which is the Memorial Day when I fired these up. And then the ads are already registering almost 600 page reads a day. The ad, so for those of you who are in the roundtable, I said this is my ad that I think is the one that's like the slam dunk, most likely to do well. It's genre targets, so like military, science fiction, space opera, targeting men with a starship image, with a plot centered um, uh, creative as well, like talking about plot, not talking character. I said that one would likely do the best, and it has garnered the most reads so far. It is already up at over 6 pages read per click, and then right behind it is the exact same ad creative, but for men, targeting men who and targeting authors. I don't know if this one's. I have to double check my labeling on this one. If this one's a old timey authors or modern authors, but so that's what I've got. Although I do have this one's been pretty cool. I'm rooting for this to be honest, because targeting women in science fiction has always been super difficult. But genre targets women with a character image is actually coming in third, or per amount of pages read. Granted, this is super early days, right? Like these ads are just kind of learning phase practically. So So pretty cool results so far. Some of them have some pretty high CPCs. Some of them have much more reasonable CPCs. Like I think when they first started, one of them was like 58 cents per click. So I got 26 for this kind for science fiction like this. By the way, low 20s is the best I can reasonably expect. I might see some dip down below that, and a lot of them are already coming down. Like this one, actually, no, this one's going up. So boo hiss on that. But there were some that had come down quite a bit. Like like this one started up over 60 cents per click, and it is currently at 25. So a lot of the CPCs are moving in the right direction, but again, way too early to determine anything about those. So, but pretty neat. I think it's pretty interesting. And like I said, I'm recording a bunch of videos about this, so this will be an ongoing sort of experiment to see how this works, to see is it better to run this many all at once, spend $1,000 over the course of 7 days, and get a crunk load of data that you can then use to make some assessments from. So we'll see what happens, but it is fun times. So something that you guys can all get in on. I'm going to check out your books, Janet. I think you actually might be a good candidate for this. So, and you're good at providing feedback and data too, which is also handy. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. That's what I got going on. Other than like walks in the woods by the beach and stuff like that, because it's actually nice enough to do that now. Jill and I went for a walk yesterday, and it was gorgeous. I'm gonna show you guys the photo of, we have this little beach near our house. And it's so pretty. I gotta tell you, if you've never been to New Brunswick, this is like a place to go to for sure. So like that's the view from the little beach near our house. And where we live is kind of sort of dead ahead, and then to the right around the bend, there's like a housing development area. So it's pretty picturesque here. Anyway, enough flexing about New Brunswick. I grew up in Western Canada, and New Brunswick is like, it's this little postage stamp province out in the eastern end of Canada. It's not cool like Nova Scotia, because Nova Scotia has Halifax and all that, and it's not interesting like PEI, and it's not a cold, wet rock like Newfoundland. It's just Nova Scotia, but I'm pretty happy with it here. Janet says, number 5 analytical, all the feedback. I think I'm 2 or 3. No, 2 or I might be, I don't know. I'm somewhere in the top. Analytical's in my top 5. I forget which. I don't think it's 3. I think number 3 is Woo, which I'm quite proud of. Becca Syme says I'm the only author that she's ever encountered. At least last time she and I talked about this, she might have in the meantime, that had Woo in their top 5, which is hilarious. Yeah, the water do be cold. That's for sure, Elaine, especially this time of year, because even though it's really weird. So the St. John River and the Kennebecasis River come down, and they meet in a place called Grand Bay, and that beach was sort of Grand Bay adjacent. And then the St. John River starts up again and flows to the ocean, and it's only like a mile or so, that stretch of the St. John River. But we're off the Bay of Fundy, which has the highest tides in the world. So St. John has a reversing waterfall at that shorter river segment that connects Grand Bay to the ocean. And so the water actually flows both directions through there. So most of the water in Grand Bay and the tail end of the Kennebecasis River and all that is actually all salt water. So it's all ocean water. So even though everybody calls they call this area, like they call it the Kennebecasis Bay, and there's Grand Bay and St. John River and all that, it's actually all just fjords, which is like ocean water and long, narrow inlets with high cliffs on the sides, basically. So yeah, so it's a fjord, which I think is super cool. This lives in Sask, Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland and Ontario, and PEI is the most beautiful. Isn't PEI just like super freaking flat, Janet? William Stacy says BC is pretty, but BC is like the super hot model who knows it. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. It's so true. BC's British Columbia, for those of you who aren't super familiar with Canadian names of places. Um, yeah, and that's why, like, I think New Brunswick, like, yes, does not have the high craggy peaks, mountain peaks that BC has, but I think it's just as beautiful, if not more so, than BC. Partially because I like living next to the ocean, and I feel like a lot of BC's most beautiful terrain is not by the ocean, although maybe it is. Sounds proper. Looks like Pennywise could pop up. Not as flat as Sask. I mean, Saskatchewan has hills. Saskatchewan has places that are as high as the Rocky Mountain foothills. I do want to get to PEI. It's on my bucket list for this summer, actually, to head across that old bridge and up to PEI. Because I mean, I live like a 2 hour drive from PEI, so it seems crazy um, not to go. Pennywise could pop up out of the water. You're definitely writing, Elaine. What are you writing right now, Elaine, that you're going there? What's your favorite place that you've lived in, Janet, since you've lived in half of Canada at this point? I always forget that you lived in Saskatchewan. I'm just going to sit here in silence and wait for Janet to respond. Come on, Janet. We're all waiting on you. Go, go, go. But yeah, so, and then I was looking, like I said, at places in Europe, because I'm just kind of like, oh, what's housing look like in Europe? And I gotta say, I don't know that I could live in a stone house. It's the weirdest thing, right? Like I bet you that most people don't even consider this, but like um people always like sort of talk about North American houses being weird because they're built out of wood, whereas European houses are built out of stone. But a lot of them are just built out of concrete. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know that I want to live inside of a man-made cave. Um, I've got this weird aversion to living in a concrete house. I like to know that I'm living in a wooden house with dead tree bones around me or something. I don't know what it is. Um, but yeah, the houses in Portugal is kind of interesting because like these things are like all concrete and all tile. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Oh, okay, that makes sense, Janet. Yeah, you're pretty hooked up there. Yeah, cinder blocks are not something I'm keen on either. Um, that's no go for me. Interestingly, part of the reason why um, people always wonder, like, why are houses in North America built out of wood? One, because the continent was covered in trees, which sort of makes that easy. But the other thing is that wood is actually far better at retaining heat um, or retaining cool than brick or stone is. Brick and stone basically just let it right through. Like wood siding, like wood this thick, the siding on a house made out of wood has more heat, more cold resistance, heat resistance. Basically, it's an R rating, is what's called. So it has a higher R rating than 4 inches of brick. Uh, it's actually I'm weird. I look up. We're all weird. We all rabbit hole weird stuff. Okay, well I rabbit hole the R rating of different materials to see, how good they are at retaining heat. And wood is actually significantly better than stone or brick at retaining heat and or retaining cool. So anyway, yeah. Oh, concrete. Oh, can't live in concrete. You live in Monique. You live in England now, right? No, Spain. Why is my brain not working? Why can't I forget? All right, Elaine says I'm writing Bane Tempest stories with my friend. It's dark comedy about a hapless detective, quirky murders. Poland, man. I thought England. I'm like, no, that's not right. And for some reason, I thought Spain. But yeah, Poland. You've said this so many times now. I can't believe I can't remember that way. Where do you think it's all kicking off, but a lot is not being reported? What does kicking off mean, Elaine? I'm concerned about that, Elaine. Kicking off. Um, Apartment block was built in the 70s. That makes sense, Monique. Oh, so it's like Soviet era apartment block that you're living in. I'm guessing, right? I've been to Moscow. I've seen the Soviet era apartment buildings in Moscow. And it's like, wow, there's these things have all the personality of a sledgehammer. Um, Crazy. But yeah, so I'm like, I looked at a lot of the houses. I'm like, "Ah, I think I want to live in a nice wooden house on a lake in New Brunswick." Brexia, Aesotheros? Did you get like consumed? Are you like part machine now? Are you a sliver, perhaps? People, what are they demonstrating about? I mean, I can guess a few things that they're demonstrating about, but I'm curious what they're demonstrating about. But yeah, I think we were looking at places like Portugal or Ireland. Just like we just sort of been talking because it's not a guarantee that Jill can actually get residency in Canada. Canada is one of the hardest countries to get into it in the world. Uh, so we're like thinking about what our plan B can be. There you go, Citharos. Are you a smidge nervous, Monique? My goodness. Oh, you don't need to feel bad, Jill. We're gonna figure something out. Even if we create like a new false persona. She's always lived in Canada. Her name is Julios. I'm just making up crazy shit here. We're not going to do anything like that. Canada immigration. If you watch this video, that was all a joke. Huh. Interesting. Ireland is like offering like really easy visas if you are willing to move to certain places. Hope the war starts the day after we arrive. Oh, good. Oh, I know the UK's anti-trans. The UK is not on the list, Elaine. Don't worry. I have no intentions of going to Turf Island. Sorry, it's not going to happen. No, there's some angles of that sort of thing where it's like, maybe Canada's the place to stay. But I tell you, when you are the kind of person, in my case, trans, right, where no matter where you go, a certain percentage of the population may not want you there just because of who you are. And I'm not the only person who experiences this, obviously. Um, this could be ethnicity, this can be skin color, this can be, you know, um, gender, this can be so many different things. But man, when you're like kind of like not certain that the local populace wants you there, it certainly makes your home country seem a lot more appealing because at the very least they can't kick you out. I mean, unless your home country is the United States, then they'll just send you to Libya. But aside from that, you know, they can't kick you out. Um, so yeah, that's definitely a part of it. You're like, even if Canada kind of goes down the shitter in that department, at least I'm home and I have a support network and that sort of thing. So yeah, um, isn't it a fun time to be alive? I was wondering, Monique. I was wondering what it's like for you to live in Poland. I imagine it must have some interesting elements to it. Um, I have I have a friend. She lives she's gone all around the world. She's a digital nomad author, and right now she's hanging in Southeast Asia, and she seems to really like it there. Um, and I get the impression from her that she's black, that being black in Southeast Asia is the least problem she's had with her skin color anywhere that she's lived, which I think is awesome for her. Because this in Spain, if you go in there and you have enough money to live, I think Canada's the best place. Do you mean because there's no jobs there, Elaine, or something like that? He's my husband's. Do they not like public display of affection, Monique? You're just trying to rile up the locals. I like getting the tea. Um, but yeah, Canada seems like a pretty good place. But then again, like, what if Jill can't stay in Canada? I'm not going to live in a country without Jill. So it's all because of the taco in the United States that we're having these problems. He loves it. He must be a riot to hang out with Monique. It'd be awesome. We've wandered so far off topic right now. Um, Was LOL for taco? You guys have heard that, right? Calling. Yes, right. Taco Trump. Jill goes around some part of the US and crosses her fingers and toes. Yes, Jill crosses everything. Yeah. Trump always chickens out is what taco stands for those of you who don't know. Why can't Jill stay there? Because Jill's an American citizen and doesn't have residency in the United States. But doesn't have residency in Canada. Canada is considered to be like one of the hardest countries in the world to immigrate into. You have to the amount of money that you have to bring in, that I have to bring in to even begin to sponsor Jill into the country, is like 4 times what you have to bring in for most European countries, for example. And then there's, health and age and all sorts of things that come into play. It's Canadians are not super immigration friendly. Like both as a people and as as national policy, it's been like that. Even when I was even in the 90s, Canada was like that. I can't speak before the 90s, but it's yeah. Yeah, that's true. There's not right now. Is it for you the income requirements are for then? I forget. The Reverend is based on JD Vance. Well, that makes it pretty interesting now. Or you did tell me we don't. Yes, it is the health stuff that worries me too for you, honey. But we're gonna figure it out. We will. Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to wander off into depressing topics. Because like it's spring in the northern hemisphere. I'm sorry, other southern hemisphere folks. It's spring. It's sunny. There were deer outside my window again today. They were every single one of them did like this side-eye double take thing as they went past the window and saw me and just like stared at me with their heads on a swivel as they went by. And then I was in the kitchen making some coffee, and the deer had wandered out into the backyard on the far side of the derelict tennis court that's in the backyard. Yeah, there's a derelict tennis court in the backyard. Actually, if it didn't have this one divot in it where the ground had sunken, you could put a new net up and it'd be fine. The posts are still there and everything. But they're on the far side of that. And I theoretically knew deer could do this, but I've never seen them do it. They were like up on their hind legs. So like these things are like their heads are like 7, 8 feet in the air, and they're getting fresh leaves off the trees. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm Canadian, yes, Elaine. Yeah, but being like, for example, in the States, when I went to the States, I lived illegally in the States for 6 years, because the immigration in the States system in the States is so messed up that you can't even tell if you can get in unless you consult a lawyer. And I finally talked to some lawyers, and they're like, "You've been married to an American for more than 3 years. They literally cannot deny you access into the United States. You get permanent residency. Basically, it's just a matter of having it happen. So unless you have a criminal record or something like that, then it's different. But in my situation, it was like you're a shoe-in, and I was already living in the States, and they're like, since you're in the States and you're applying, they also can't make you leave. So the only way they can make you leave is if you do some sort of criminal act. So don't do anything criminal. Don't cross the border. Stay in the States, and you'll get approved. And they're like, and don't lie to them. So like, even if they're asking you questions about bad things that you did crossing the border, tell them the truth. And so I did. And I tell you, it was nerve wracking, that last interview with INS, where they're like, have you ever crossed the border and like lied to the border guards about your intent to work in the United States and stuff like that? I'm like, yes, like every single one. And then the guy is like, the guy's like, I see no reason not to approve you. And I'm like, fuck you. That was stressful. Why'd you have to say? Like, he paused for effect quite significantly. But yeah, super easy to get into the United States. In my situation, but there's no such guarantee for Jill. There's no like, oh, you've been married to a Canadian for 25 years. You have a Canadian citizen daughter. You're still not guaranteed to get into the country. And it's entirely possible if Jill does get into the country, she will not be able to get on Canadian healthcare while she's here as well. There's some difficulties. So I mean, but it all could work. We'll find out. It's kind of all up in the air. And so it's limbo, and limbo is the worst. It's like I don't know how the Catholics came up with that whole limbo business. Sounds worse than hell. but I suppose that's probably all relative. Yeah, it can be wild in some places, can't it, Monique? It's not as cut and dried as one might think to get into a lot of different countries. Yes, and there's that uncertainty sucks. And Jill's not a fan of uncertainty. I'm not a fan of uncertainty either. But at the very least, we got EVA citizenship paperwork already, so they're like, "Huzzah, she's a citizen," um, and which means we can get her all of her attendant Canadian paperwork, like a passport and all that. So we're chugging along on that. But I'm gonna bid you all adieu. Um, I want to ramble on about all this too long, but I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of day Thursday and an amazing weekend coming up. I'm pretty stoked that I'm like so close to getting done this book, and that the weather is gorgeous, and that I'm going to be getting to go to an author conference, already in Canada, which would be super fun. So it's gonna be pretty cool. Oh yeah, UK to Canada is definitely easier. Once if you're in the British Commonwealth, then the rules change. Um, for most countries in the Commonwealth. Um, yeah, it's quite a bit easier to go from UK to Canada than it is US to Canada. That's the thing as well. I know I have a lot of people that I know have moved back and forth between Commonwealth countries without too much trouble. Maybe we all go to New Zealand. Who knows? It has been great. I've really enjoyed seeing you, Elaine, and chatting. It's been awesome. And I'm here every Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel, which of course means I will see you guys next Thursday. I'll have an update on my crazy 15 ads that I'm running. Likely, I will not be running 15 anymore at that point. Some will be pruned. But I don't know. Maybe if enough of them do well, I'll spark up additional ones and test new things and still be at 15 ads running. We'll see. Um, it's an exciting times. All right. Have a good weekend, Monique. Enjoy the edits, and everybody else who's been here as well, Davina and Cytheros and um, Janet and Jill and everybody. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.